Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Tasha. I am here today to give you guys a romance recommendation to kind of go along with our readathon that we are doing this month. So if you caught my announcement video that I posted back on Monday, it's me and about 10 other of my romance reading friends here on BookTube. We got together and decided that we're going to do just this kind of short little readathon this upcoming weekend, since we are all feeling a little stir crazy with this quarantine and just everything going on. Some of us are having a hard time getting motivated to read, kind of like me. So we decided we're just going to get together, have a fun little readathon, and we're hoping that some of you guys can join us as well. So today we're all posting some recommendation videos for you guys. We took the romance genre and we kind of split it up into 4 different main genres under romance. So we picked contemporary, we picked historical, sci-fi, and paranormal. So we're all going to kind of give some recommendations under those genres. So under contemporary, we have chick lit / comedy. And for that, I have a few recommendations. Recently, I've been reading the Irresistible Bachelors series by Landish. I believe I'm on book 3 or 4 of that series, and they are so funny and lighthearted, and I just absolutely adore them. Really, anything that I've read from Landish, I've absolutely loved, so any of her books would work. Also, another one of my favorite series that I had read last year was Sex and Sweet Tea by Juilette Poe. That series was absolutely hilarious. It was funny. It was steamy. It was just all around a great series. So I highly recommend that. I also recently finally read Well Met by Jen DeLuca. That was such a cute book, and I recommend it. And really anything by R.S. Grey. I've read several of her books here recently, and I believe I've read all of her books that are in the Kindle Unlimited. So if it's not Kindle Unlimited, I've read all of her books that are in the Audible Escape package. So I haven't got to the ones that are not in the Audible Escape package yet, but I absolutely have loved everything that I've read of hers. So for under dark romance, I would recommend the Tormentor Mind series by Zaires. This series is definitely dark and twisted. It is about a guy who kidnaps this lady because her husband knew something, and he's basically like an assassin. And when this lady's husband, I guess, ends up knowing something, and he thinks that maybe she knows because of who she's married to, he decides to break into their house one night and he kidnaps her. Well, throughout the book, I believe there's 4 of them, and he ends up falling in love with her. And it's kind of, it almost makes you kind of think of it as like a Stockholm Syndrome type thing, because he's holding her hostage in basically every single book. She's fallen in love with him, doesn't stop her from trying to escape from him though, but him and his buddies have her, under lock and key basically. They let her get out and get some fresh air every now and then, but they've always got somebody on her. And even though he loves her, he's afraid to take a chance and let her go, give her freedom. And then same thing with her. I mean, like, as much as she wants to go back, she still loves him. She tries to escape, but yet she is in love with him. So it's kind of a twisted dark. It's very, very out there, but I really enjoyed all 4 books. So under Western, I'm going to recommend Honky Tonk Angels by Ciana Stone. I believe I'm on the 3rd or 4th book in this series, and they are so cute. I absolutely love them. And then another series I would recommend is the Midnight Cowboy series by Kat Johnson. That I believe is 3 books, and I've read all 3 of those. And I know there's also, I believe, like a spin-off series of that. And I believe this series takes place in Oklahoma, which is where I'm at, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember that I absolutely loved them. So those are a couple that you could read for in the Western category. Then we're going to move on to historical. I don't read a lot of historical. I want to, and what I have read, I've absolutely loved, and I keep saying I'm going to go back to reading more historical. I just never do. And I've got a whole long list of historical books that I've gotten from a bunch of my booktube friends that have recommended books to me that are on the list to read, but I just haven't gotten around to doing that. But what I have enjoyed is The Douglas Legacy by Margaret Mallory is more of a Highlander historical book, and I absolutely love this. I love me a good Highlander story. Ever since I read Outlander and just the whole Scottish Highlander storylines, I absolutely love them. Anything by Eloise James, I absolutely love. I did read her Desperate Duchess series as well as My American Duchess. Those were so cute and I absolutely adored those. One other book that I'm going to recommend that if you wanted to read one big book for the readathon would be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is a big book. It is over, well, this one is 850 pages, so it's under 1,000. But Outlander would definitely is modern. It's historical. Well, not really modern. It takes place, I believe, in like 1940s or something like that, starting out. But she travels back in time to the 1700s, and it's Scottish, history. And Diana Gabaldon, as far as the historical aspect of it, she does her research very, very, very well. Diana Gabaldon used to be a history professor, and so when she started writing these books, she had actually went to Scotland and all this, and she did her research. And so, obviously the story itself is fiction. Obviously there's no time travel in real life, stuff like that, but the historical aspects of the Outlander series are all real, like the war, the Clawdon, all the places in these books are all real. And this is probably one of my favorite series of all times. And so if you have time and you think you can get through it in 3 days, I would definitely recommend this series if you haven't read it already. And then going back to contemporary real quick, because I forgot to talk about suspense. So in suspense, like I said, any MC romance would work under suspense, but this is a cozy mystery, so it's not really categorized as romance, but the romance between the main character and a certain police officer throughout the entire series is one of my favorite romances in books. And so I'm going to mention it even though it's not considered a romance, but that is the Coffeehouse series by Cleo Coyle. These are just really short, very quick books. But if you like cozy mysteries and you're new to the whole romance genre, or you don't like the romance genre and you are looking for something more like mystery or cozy mystery or something like that, check this series out because it's got that romance aspect to it. So you could still be reading a romance book, but it's considered a cozy mystery. And it definitely has the mystery aspects to it, but just the love and the romance between her and the police officer in this series, and the banter between her and her ex-husband Mateo in this series, and Mateo's mom, who owns the coffee shop, had me laughing through every single one of these books. So I highly recommend these books. So after historical, we are going to move on to paranormal. So paranormal is kind of where my heart lies, between suspense, like with my MC romances. You all know I love my MC romances. I did a MC romance recommendation video, and I'll link it down below. So if anybody wants some MC romance recommendations for the suspense category, I'll link it down below so you can go watch that. But paranormal is like is where my love for reading came from. And I absolutely adore it. So I've got a few recommendations for the romance part of the paranormal. So first off, I'm going to recommend the Immortal Guardian series by Diane Duvall. This is currently 9 books, I believe, and she has confirmed that she is definitely writing more, and she'll keep writing them until her fans decide that they don't want them anymore. But this series I absolutely, absolutely love. It takes a whole new spin on vampires. They're not really vampires. Yes, they do consume blood, but they also consume food. As long as it's organic, because their bodies can't handle like additives and preservatives and stuff like that. So everything has to be natural and organic. But they are basically these immortal guardians. They are there to protect the human race from vampires. Vampires are basically these evil creatures that get the vampiric virus in them, and they find out through the series that what the difference between immortal guardians and vampires, they both have the same vampiric virus in them. But if you're a gifted one, which means you have a special ability of some sort, telekinesis, you can read minds, you can move things, you can really any kind of special ability, then some people have prophetic dreams. So, I mean, there's all sorts of different special abilities that you have. And if you've got a special ability, you're considered a gifted one. And therefore, the vampiric virus does not turn you insane. It turns you into an immortal guardian. Well, if you don't have any special abilities, then it will turn you literally insane. And you become a vampire. Well, the immortal guardians are there to protect the human race from these insane vampires. And each book follows their story and each set of characters in each book and their love story and everything. And I absolutely love it. It's so good. Next, to go along with shifters, I am going to recommend River Pack Wolves by Alyssa Woods. This is a trilogy, and they are basically wolf shifters. And they own this like PI business, and I absolutely loved this series. And there is another spin-off series. I believe there's 6 books in that series, and it's called the Wilder series. But definitely read the River Pack series first, because it introduces everyone that appears in the Wilder series. But this book, I think I finished all 3 books in just a matter of a couple of days. I could not put them down. They were absolutely addictive, and I loved them. And then after that, this is an old one, but this has a little bit of everything. It's got witches, it's got shifters, it's got vampires, and if you couldn't tell by the book, it is the True Blood / Sookie Stackhouse / Southern Vampires series by Charlene Harris. This series is from what the HBO show True Blood was made after. And I had actually started watching True Blood first before I found out that it was even a book. And then I found the books, and I believe there's 13 books in the series. But one thing I like about this book versus the series on TV is that after the second book in the series, they completely go their own separate ways. So the first book, minus a couple little changes, are basically identical. Then the second book is the same way. I mean, they start making little changes here and there, but they're basically the same thing. And then from the third book on, goes completely different directions. There's some characters that die in the books that are still alive in the show, and vice versa. And there are characters that are in the books that are not in the show, and vice versa. And just the storylines themselves go completely different directions. But if you like the show, definitely check this out. If you like vampires, if you like shifters, if you like sassy women, if any of that, definitely check this out. They're very short, very fast reads, and I'm actually getting ready to reread this series because it's been several years. I'm talking 8 years since I've read this series. So I'm actually getting ready to start reading it. I might end up doing maybe a buddy read coming up, or a readathon or something coming up with this series. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll do that coming up soon. And then after that, none of my videos would be my video if I did not recommend the Arjun O series. As I've mentioned in every single one of my books, and I will probably keep mentioning this series in every single one of my videos until everyone in the world has read them. This series is my all-time favorite series in the entire world. I am still currently reading the last couple of books for the first time, but I've also started rereading this series as well. This series, if you haven't seen any of my other videos and you've never heard about this series, they are kind of vampires, but they hate being called vampires. They live off of human blood. They don't like the sunlight. Doesn't mean they can't go out in it. They just don't like it. So that they are a human race. They are not like soulless creatures. They have a heartbeat, everything. They actually have nanos in their blood from their ancestors that came from Atlantis that had created these nanos to help fight cancer, illness, stuff like that. But what they didn't take into account is that our bodies are constantly under attack. And so the nanos never self-destructed and died or whatever once the body was healed. And so it kept repairing their body every time something happened to it, including aging, pollution, anything that happened to the body, it would just keep healing them. So they essentially lasted forever. The only way to kill them is to behead them or burn their bodies. And so this series starts off with Ciana in this book, and she has a phobia of blood. And since that's what they live off of, it's kind of a problem. And so her mom decides to kidnap a psychiatrist that specializes in phobias to heal her for her birthday. She doesn't know that that's what he's for, because when she comes home to go up to change, she knows it's her birthday and her whole family's there for her birthday and everything. But when she goes up to her room to change clothes for her birthday, he is tied to her bed with a bow on. So she thinks that her mom got him for her as like a birthday snack, to find out that that's not why he's there at all. And then come to find out, he is her life mate. Life mates are the one person that the nanos know for sure 100% that you are supposed to be with. And these books are so hilarious. They're cheesy, they're corny, they're mindless reads. They are those books that when you've had a stressful day and you just cannot think anymore, or you don't want to think anymore, or you just need a really light-hearted book, these are the books that you're going to want to pick up, because they're just that. They take no thought process of trying to figure stuff out. They are just simple books to read. And I'm a slow reader, and I can read one book in 1 to 2 days. And that's saying something for me, because I'm a super slow reader. But these books, I'll be sitting on the couch reading them, and I will literally start laughing out loud to the point my husband and my kids are looking at me going, "Why are you cracking up over there?" to the point where I'm in tears. So I definitely recommend these. I will say, if you're going to try this series, don't judge this first book. Don't judge the series off of just this first book. Definitely read the first or second book before you decide, because this book was her very first book. As far as this goes, I don't know if it was her like debut novel or if it was just towards the beginning of her career, but it is so cheesy. And there are times that I'm reading and I'm like, okay, for real, seriously. But this book though, I loved it. So you're either going to love or hate it, but once you move on to the second and third book, you'll be addicted. You will absolutely be hooked, and you'll want to read every single one. So I highly recommend picking up this book and books 2 and 3 and giving this series a try. And then for those that like YA and aren't necessarily into the more adult for witches, I decided to add a YA book, and I'm going to add the Sweep series by Kate Tiernan. This is a 15-book series, and it's about witches. And this follows high school kids, and they have covens, and some of them are like the idea of witchcraft, like the idea of the coven, but they're not technically witches. But then there are witches like our main character Morgan, who is a full-blood witch. She doesn't know it though until she comes into her powers and things start happening, and then she ends up meeting some other characters. Cal, which is her, ends up becoming her love interest in this, and there's some stuff that happens in these. They've definitely got the drama, the suspense. I mean, for YA books, these are so addicting and so good. So I highly recommend that if you haven't read that. So those are my recommendations for you. Since this video actually ended up being so long, I know a lot of my other booktube friends that are doing this with me, they added their TBR in their video with them. But since this is already such a long video, I'm going to do a separate video for my TBR. There are 2 or 3 books that I plan on wanting to get to. So watch for my video tomorrow if you want to know what I'm planning on reading this weekend. Let me know down in the comments if you guys are going to join us in this readathon. I would definitely like to hear what you plan on reading with us. If you want to read any of the recommendations that I read, let me know down below. If you do, also come back and let me know what you thought of those books. If you do decide to participate in this readathon with us, use the hashtag romancetakeoverbuddyread on all your social media accounts, so that way we know that you are participating with us. Also, if you are on BookTube and you make videos, make a video about it. You know, do a vlog this weekend, do a TBR video, do a wrap-up video, something. We also are going to have a couple of photo challenges. We are going to have a couple of reading challenges. So watch, I'll go over that in my video tomorrow with my TBR, and I'll let you know what I will be doing for those as well. So watch out for my video tomorrow and comment down below and let me know what you guys are planning on reading. If you're not participating in the Romance Takeover Buddy Read / Readathon this weekend, let me know what you plan on reading regardless. So for now, I will talk to you guys later. Happy reading.